Hello and welcome back to Just Code It. Today we're going to be taking a look at text splitters in LangChain. There are a few different types of text splitters. The first are just length-based splitters, then document structure splitters, and finally there are semantic meaning splitters, which basically use vector embeddings to semantically split the text. To start, we're going to start out with the most simple one, length-based splitters. For length-based splitters, you have two options. You can either do a token-based splitter or a character-based splitter. Pretty similar. Tokens are just what the kind of root word. When you tokenize your text, it reduces things down to a root word. And tokens are also what LLMs use. So doing a token-based splitter can be beneficial in some ways. And just a simple character-based splitter just splits per character. An important parameter is the encoder name, which is the tokenizer you want to use to split the text or reduce it down. The default, I believe, is GPT-2. This is just another one. And then you do splitter.documents like we did before with embeddings, and you pass it a list of the text you want. And as you can see, we get back a list that is 3 long. So it split it 3 times. After that, we have text structure based splitters. So this is the main one here is the RecursiveCharacterTextSplitter. This attempts to keep things together in paragraphs or sentences down to words. So it just goes down that hierarchy. We pass it a chunk size and an overlap like before. Create the splitter, and then it's basically the same things from there. Now, the first specialized splitter we have is a code splitter. So here we can pass it this code file. This is just a Streamlit app from a previous video. We're going to read it in and just print it to begin. Here you can just see the front matter of that. And then from that recursive text splitter, we grab it from a language, pass it language.python. We can get a list of languages by this. Pass that down here. So here are all the languages that it supports. We're going to use Python. Chunk size of 50, no overlap on this because that might be confusing to it. And here you can see it created all these documents with the code. The next specialized splitter is this Markdown-splitter. This can be really useful for parsing documentation. We have another example doc. I just made one with a couple different sections in it and then just the names of the sections. Pretty simple. How we do this, read it in like this with open, save the text, and then you define these headers to split on. So we want it to split on a header 1, a header 2, and a header 3. So what it will do will then split on those and return documents for each one. Use that Markdown text splitter, pass it the headers, and then we're going to ask it strip headers to false. So you'll see what this looks like after we run it. I definitely did not read in that document. So here you can see it kept the headers within the page content, which I kind of like because when you're querying it in a vector database, sometimes you know what section you're talking about or a section might be in your query. So I like keeping them. But you can see it creates the path of where each component is. So you have a header 1 with the title, and then header 2, section 1, and then this is the content. Header 1, header 2, header 3, section 1.1. It just goes like that all the way down. Now, the neat thing that you can do with this is then pass these documents into the recursive text splitter and chunk up each of those sections. So it's much like the previous one. We're just going to reduce that chunk size and then pass it into the documents, which is a list. And here are all the chunks after we did that. So we split it at 10, so really small split. And you can see it keeps that metadata. So header 1, then title of the document, page content is just document. So this can be useful for longer sections if you want to chunk it down, and it can improve your ability to query it later using a vector database, using embeddings and things of that nature. It's a good step to know. Basically just split it twice. Now we have HTML header text splitter. This is a lot like Markdown. We're going to define the headers we want to split on, then pass it into the HTML header text splitter, create our splitter, split text, then we can just print out what we have. Another way to do this is by using the section splitter. This can just be a bit more detailed, so you can split on any kind of section like a div or things like that. So if you want to get super specific for where you want the split to happen, or if you want to select specific aspects of the HTML file, then this might be your route, but we're just going to do header 1 and header 2 for this. We can just grab header 1 and header 2. Finally, we have semantic-based splitting. Semantic-based splitting uses vector embeddings to split on semantic meaning. So it will chunk on parts that have the same semantic meaning. So if you have a paragraph on cats and a paragraph on dogs, it will probably then split it on those paragraph lines instead of just having an arbitrary character count or token count. So we get it from LangChain experimental text splitter semantic chunker. And we're just going to use Ollama for our embeddings. Same embedding model as our previous video. And these are some of the options that you can pass to it. So as you can see, we have to pass it our embedding model. Number of chunks, we're going to go for 3. And then you can also pass it things like minimum chunk size, which is nice. And then breakpoint threshold as a percentile. This can be useful if you want to alter that threshold, the similarity threshold that it will chunk at. There's a couple other ones, but those are the main ones. That's basically it. Takes a lot longer to run because it has to do vector embeddings for each one. This one by far takes the most resources and takes the longest to run because it's using an embedding model to simply chunk it. And on long pieces of text, it can take a very long time. Let's see what happens if we get rid of the number of chunks. As you can see, if you have the minimum, it will force it. But if it doesn't, it found 2 main chunks that it believes are the best way to split this text. That is it for text splitters. Up next, we have embeddings, where we're going to be using Ollama and OpenAI embedding models to create some vector embeddings of the text strings or a document. So we can feed it then one of these documents and then also save it to a vector database if we want to, but that will be 2 episodes from now. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you next time.